Hello again and welcome to another Morning Mondays. This is episode 107 and today guys I have got my cool new bolt action Jeep to show off to you guys. It's actually the first time that I've painted a model like this in ages, because when you think about it, you don't really get Jeeps in Warhammer 40k or sort of small little gun wagons like this. You get things like obviously Dakar Primes and stuff, but they're much bigger. This thing is quite small, so it's really nice to have just like a little dinky little vehicle that I could paint up and have a bit of fun with, and it didn't take very long for me to paint it at all. I've got this, and I've also done quite well on getting through some of my riflemen, so absolutely speeding along on the old bolt action front, and it's just a really cool little vehicle. Now for those of you that are curious about, you know, what this thing is made out of and all that kind of stuff, it is actually metal and resin. So for a lot of the more unique or specialist, or even some of the smaller bolt action vehicles, a lot of them are metal and resin. So most of this is of all of the body is resin, but what is metal is the driver and the gun and the wheels. That's basically the metal parts. And it's a bit of a, if you're like me and you've been doing wargaming for a long time, it's quite nice, bit of a nostalgia trip to paint up a small sort of resin model like this. Takes you back in the day. Everything's moving towards plastic these days, but being able to paint up good old metal models, good old resin models, it's quite enjoyable for someone like me. Although I would totally appreciate that it could be a bit of a turn off for some newer players that are getting into bolt action. But the good news is that constantly, every month, every week, Warlords are slowly but surely converting a lot of their metal and resin line over to plastic. So for example, loads of the tanks they used to do, like the different variations of the Shermans, they used to be resin, and you can now get them in plastic. But the cool thing about Warlords, and I know I'm already off on a tangent, I will come back to this model in a second. The cool thing about Warlords is they don't retire model lines very often. They'll just put them on made to order instead. So, for example, you can still go on like the Warlords website and you can still get loads of the different random, unique variations, almost some of them famous variations of like the Sherman tank, for example. So, I think in like the Pacific, a lot of there was like a famous picture of a Sherman which had like wooden. They put some like extra wooden side armor on it or something like that. And likewise in the European theatre, there's really loads of examples of Americans sandbagging, like lots and lots of sandbags like around the Sherman. So you can still go and get those variations rather than like modelling the sandbag yourself, which of course you could do. You can go and get a model which is almost like it's based on like one of those old black and white photos, like a famous black and white photo, and they've taken that, they've made a model out of it. So you can go and buy the sandbag Sherman, you can go and buy the Sherman with wooden side armor, you can go and buy this very specific M4A3B2 whatever version it is. I'm not great with with the names and everything, but the point is you can go and buy those versions. They're basically in made to order in resin, and made to order doesn't take them long to make it. I should be clear, like they'll get it to you in a week or so. It's that kind of sort of made to order, just rather than being shipped out next day. So it's really cool that they do that, but for a lot of people, obviously, you just want to get the plastic Sherman, because the plastic Sherman will come with like the normal gun, it will come with the howitzer and whatnot. But you can pick, they've even got a couple of 2 or 3 different variations of the Sherman now. So you can get the Sherman Firefly, you can get the regular Sherman 4, you can get the Sherman 5. All of those things are in plastic, and it's only if you want some of those more unique, iconic sort of sculpts that you can go for, but they still sell them in metal and resin. Now, I just like mentioning, it's really, looking at the Warlords model line, it's so refreshing. It's like if every faction was like Marines in 40k, you get to keep all your sculpts forever and ever. It's like that. Now, coming back to this Jeep, I found it really easy to put together. I did wash the model though. I don't know what Warlord uses as a releasing agent. I didn't have any issues in terms of like painting. I just don't risk it when it comes to resin. I just always find it's just best to give it a quick wash. So what I did is very simply, because it's such a small model, I just got a toothbrush and some warm soapy water and just took about 2 or 3 minutes and just scrubbed it around, and that was fine. Just gave it a quick wash in the water, quick soak, and then patted it dry and then spray painted it. It was absolutely fine. The paint took to it, no problem whatsoever. Obviously I used super glue when I was gluing it together, because it's a metal and resin model. And so that was basically it. Now, in terms of the paints that I use, I didn't follow a painting guide for this one. I actually just kind of adapted what I've been using for the airborne troops. So I did the main body of this. It's all in Vallejo. I did the main. I kind of find Vallejo is a little bit better for painting the World War II minis. I've used a lot of Citadel. In fact, all my Japs were done in Citadel paints. All of my Germans were done in Citadel paints. It's only for my Americans where I've sat down and gone, right, I really want to do these a bit more properly. And I did those with Vallejo paints and army painted paints, and I found those, they do look a bit more realistic. Now, I painted this Jeep, for those of you that want to know what colour green I used, I went for Vallejo and I went for US dark green, and I couldn't decide between US dark green and camo olive green, but in the end I decided I'd go with US dark green. So that's the one that I used there, just to let you guys know. Now, a couple of points to raise. This model looks very shiny, and it is very shiny. What I've noticed, this is a little, one of these things that we do with Mordian Mondays is it's my painting journey. It's my experience. It's me finding things out for the first time and sharing some of that painting knowledge. I know a lot of the time these Mordian Mondays are a bit random and they're all over the place, a bit of a tangent, but you will always find there's little nuggets of information in there that, oh, I've discovered this edge highlighting technique, or oh, I've used this new kind of painting, this kind of stuff. I always try and share that with you guys, because a lot of the time I'd like to see this as the hobby video, and so a lot of people I know will watch this because it's the hobbying bit they want to get from the channel, and they're doing their own projects, and I've picked up loads of tips from people putting in the comment section. I know a few other people have messaged me or put on the comment section like, oh, that technique you're talking about, that worked really, really well. So here's a little sort of thing for you, like a little, I don't know if you've got like a warning, but just something to be aware of, like some hobby knowledge that I've recently learned, which is I've been washing all of my American models, including this Jeep, in Army Painter Strong Tone. And what I've been doing is I've been following like the Sonic Sledgehammer guide when he's been doing his D-Day paratroopers, and I've been doing like 4 or 5 drops of Strong Tone, and then I've been mixing it with Army Painter Quick Shade Wash Mixing Medium, and I've noticed that does create quite a glossy effect, but in a funny, it's interesting. It's almost like it's almost like it's a bit varnished, so it protects the model a bit. But because I did find, and I will come back to this, that the paint really it rubbed off this model quite easily. But what I found was it does leave quite a glossy sheen. But what I'm going to do afterwards is I'm going to use a matte varnish, and hopefully that will take the sheen off it. But that's just to let you know that, and I found this not just with the Army Painter Strong Tone, but I found this hugely with Games Workshop Seraphim Sepia recently. The last couple of bottles I've had of Games Workshop Seraphim Sepia have been really, they've been almost tacky, almost gloopy, and they've left behind a real sheen. I've noticed that. So I don't know if there's like a new pigment that people are using in, like Army Paints were using, or Games Workshop are using in their like brown washes, but definitely Strong Tone leaves a shiny residue behind, and so does Seraphim Sepia. So that's just something to be aware of. But don't worry, if that happens to you, you can use a matte varnish and it will get rid of it. And again, don't worry if it frosts, because you can get rid of the frosting and all that kind of stuff. Now, one thing I wanted to mention that I did touch on before is I found with this model that the paint rubbed off it very easily, and I have not had that problem before. Maybe I didn't get all the releasing agent, maybe it is just maybe it's just Vallejo paints on a resin model, because I've had no issues whatsoever with when I've used Vallejo paints or Army Painter paints on plastic models. But I haven't used, sorry, I should say Army Painter paints or Citadel paints on plastic models. This is the first time that I've been using Vallejo paints, and I have been using them on metal, but I've had to be really, really careful. The Vallejo paints, they do look more realistic, but I don't know if it's because I'm painting onto metal. I will have to report back and see if it matters when I do it on plastic, but they seem to want to rub off and chip really easily. Now bear in mind, guys, I have a lot of experience with metal models. I have a lot of experience with metal models. I've never had this issue with Games Workshop paints. And you guys know I am the first person to, well, I actually try and give quite a fair balance to Cal. But you guys know I'll poo on Games Workshop. I'll give them a big dump if I get the opportunity. But their paints, they might dry out like there's no tomorrow, but I've never had much issue with them like rubbing off or coming off or anything like that. So that's just something to be aware of. But before we sacrifice Vallejo Paints on the altar, obviously a lot of people love them, I'm going to try it out on some plastic models first. But it's just something to be aware of. Either it's a criticism of Warlord resin, or it is a criticism of metal models in general, or it's a criticism of Vallejo, or a combination of all three. But it's just something I thought I would raise and again share a bit of hobby knowledge with you guys. If I was to paint this vehicle again, I actually painted the green body first. Okay, and it's tricky to say because it's a small model. I think it's a small model because it's metal and resin. I reckon what you'd have to do is you'd have to stick it to like a painting cork or handle or something like that. And if you did that, you wouldn't have any issues. But I don't have a painting cork or handle or anything like that. I've got the Games Workshop butt plugs that are like the little, model holders. They obviously aren't going to hold it cheap. So in future, I would say to people, if you're going to do this, make sure you've got some kind of painting handle you can use it on. That's what I would strongly, strongly recommend. You can even see on some of these pictures where like it's coming off from the tyres, on the underneath bit where I've been like driving it around making pew 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 noises. So that's just something to be aware of. Anyway, guys, in terms of where we're up to with the Americans in general, I'd probably say I am just under halfway through. So I've got another 8 riflemen in the works, and I've done some of the more difficult colours on those riflemen, the bigger colours. So I've kind of got the fine details left to do on those riflemen. So I'm going to get those done this week for sure, and I might get them and my other Jeep done, because I've got another little Jeep for my airborne done. So I might get them and my other Jeep done. If that happens, then I have actually got all the riflemen and all of the vehicles for my airborne done. And all I've got left at that point is characters and team weapons. So that would be 4 characters, 4 pathfinders, so that's 8 infantry, 4 LMG teams, so that's 16 infantry. And then I've got medium machine gun, light howitzer, light mortar, and medium anti-tank gun. So I think I'd probably, what we said, like 16 infantry, with the light mortar, 18 infantry, with the medium machine gun team, 21, with the light howitzer, 24, and with the medium anti-tank gun, 27. So I've got about 27 infantry. After this week, I should have about 27 infantry left, which I can paint, I can paint up 8 a week pretty quickly. So I should be able to, if not more. So I should be able to get through all that infantry in 2 to 3 weeks, and then that will be my airborne done. Airborne done, which is really, really exciting. And I've got a little bit of a confession to make, guys. I've bought another bot action army. I bought it today as I'm recording this video. I was planning on going back to my Mordian Iron Guard. I really was, guys. But I went upstairs and did a little bit of an audit of how much I've got already for like tournament stuff. And I was like, you know what? I've got plenty. I've got 300, 400 guardsmen painted up. So I don't need to pay any more for tournaments. But in terms of getting my bolt action armies ready, I'm running bolt action tournaments and stuff now, and I'm doing more battle reports, because this is another thing I'm going to talk about. Doing more battle reports and stuff like bolt action stuff. I want to have really nicely painted armies for the channel for to do bolt action battle reports. I got to get my bolt action stuff done. So I've got British and Americans, and I've got Germans and Japanese now. That's kind of where I'm at. And the British army that I've bought, I've gone for the 8th army, guys, so that I could use them both in Europe, be it like Italy, North Africa kind of area, and I could also kind of use them in the Pacific, because they could fight the Japanese. I don't think they actually wore shorts in the Pacific theatre, but they might have done, and they look like they would do. Do you know what I mean? Like shorts in the tropics. It looks like a kind of a thing you would do from a layman's perspective, even if it's not what they did from a reality perspective. So that's kind of cool. Now, last thing to mention. So that's something exciting to look forward to. I think after that, that's all of the major armies I wanted to get. I was considering Soviets, But the Soviet, there's obviously, you know, contemporary issues of collecting Russians these days. You know, a bit. And also, I mean, it's not really that bad, but you know, still. But also, the Soviet infantry kit, from a more serious point of view, the Soviet infantry kit is one of Warlords' old ones. And I have built them before. Actually, when I first got into action, I got Soviets, and the models were so difficult to put together that because you have to glue the rifles into the hands, and let me tell you, the hands just become balls of gluey, cementy mush because it never sticks in properly. That I don't want to get the Soviet kit until they've updated it. So I may end up doing it anyway. The Soviet starter set is insanely. The Soviet starter set is insane. You get 90 infantry and a vehicle. You get more infantry than you're ever going to use. You can build every variation that you're ever going to want. You get the KV-1, which you can take as like a nice 280 point, just standard. If you take it as a KV-1S. You know, you get every support team you're ever going to need. You can make, you know, because you've got so many infantry that you can make all the support teams you're ever going to want. Yeah, the Soviet starter set is insanely like good. You buy that, you don't need to buy anything else for your Soviets. It's just I don't like the kit. So we'll see where we are. So I think it's going to be bolt action for a few more Mordian Mondays. Not going to lie, guys. But I think we'll probably do it. We'll just paint what we like. I'm just going to paint what I enjoy. And right now, I'm enjoying building and painting bolt action armies, and I'm struggling to find motivation to paint even my beloved Imperial Guard. I still love 40k though, because guess what, guys? Here's another announcement for you. For those of you thinking, oh no, Morning Glory, come back to the light, come back to the grimdark. Don't worry. I have got a team tournament, 2-day team tournament, not this weekend, next weekend, and I'm taking Pure Infantry Guard to it. We're going to abuse the shit out of Hammer of the Emperor. That's what we're going to do. So that's what you've got to look forward to. Of course, there'll be loads of hype videos and list videos and all that kind of stuff leading up to that event. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, just loads of stuff that's been going on with Mordian Mondays recently. So, and not just Mordian Mondays, but action, 40k, loads. I've got, to give you an idea of how much content I've got planned, I have got 17 video ideas. That's over 3 weeks of content planned out. That's before Games Workshop even drops any more shit sandwiches or bombshells or buffs to the guard. I've got 17 videos planned out, and that's not including all the battle reports that I may end up start churning out for bolt action, because I might mention that in another video, but I'll touch upon it here. I can film 3 bolt action battle reports in the time it takes in 1 day, and normally it takes me like 8 hours and a full day to film one 40k battle report. Like, I can get out double or sometimes even triple the bolt action content. So I know a lot of you like seeing the 40k stuff. I like seeing the 40k stuff, but quantity as a quality of its own. If I can churn out a guaranteed battle report every single week, it's not a bad thing, surely. But you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Let me know. I've got one in the bag. If I release it and everyone goes, this is dog shit, we don't want to watch it, well then I'll go back to doing 40k battle reports. But if people watch it and go, holy shit, this is actually quite interesting, this is quite good, then hopefully you'll see some more of it. But yeah, I've got loads of 40k content. I've got like 15 40k videos planned out. Everything from discussing the bloat in 40k to pure infantry lists, to Rise of the Terminator thanks to Armor of Contempt, to team event reviews, loads of stuff. How to make a magnetic case for minis. I've recently come up with a really good way of doing it. So there's loads of 40k stuff to come up with. Even stuff like real world stuff, like Games Workshop versus Recast. I've got loads of ideas, videos in the pipeline. So stick around. Even if you're not that into bolt action content, there's going to be loads of 40k content. As I always say, guys, this is a 40k channel primarily. It's an Imperial Guard channel primarily. The majority of the content will always be 40k. Will always be Imperial Guard related first. We're just having a bit of fun with some seasoning of the old bolt action. If you haven't tried bolt action out yet, I highly recommend you give it a go. It is very much worth your time. It's very, very fun. But like I said, we're here for 40k. That's what we're here for, right? Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, I want to say a huge thank you to the channel Patreons. Without the Patreons, I would not be able to explore these new game systems like bolt action. I've been some people have even asked me to try out things like Malifaux and stuff like that. So loads of really cool game systems. And it's thanks to the Patreons that not only am I able to afford to be able to go to multiple tournaments and bring you back frontline meta data, I'm also able to explore other game systems which are very much worth your time whilst we wait for the Imperial Guard Codex to come out. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. Massive thank you to the Patreons. You guys, you know, like I said, just it's thanks to them that this channel does what it does. Check out, if you want to become a patron, there'll be a link down in the description below. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.